First, Iran will not be able to pursue a bomb using plutonium because it will not develop weapons-grade plutonium. The core of its reactor at Arak will be dismantled and replaced. The spent fuel from that facility will be shipped out of Iran for the life of the reactor. Iran will not build a new heavy water reactor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the president, after the announcement of an agreement in place with Iran, it's been described as tentative, preliminary, whatever, but there are details. And joining us now on the Malzberg panel, Adam Thompson. He's a senior partner and owner at the law offices of Adam M. Thompson, criminal defense attorney, and of course, syndicated talk show host. And Brad Hirschfield, author of You Don't Have to Be Wrong for Me to Be Right, and president of CLAL. And there's the book. Look at that. Amazing. Now, Adam, I know you and I could spend the time speaking about the final episode, season finale of The Walking Dead, which was awesome last Sunday night. And you probably knew how it would end. I thank you for not telling me in advance. But we're going to skip that right now. All I want to say is, Carl. But let's get to this deal here. And Brad, you know, the president and John Kerry, they're all saying the right thing, but it seems to me there's a lot of lifting of sanctions, financial sanctions, trade sanctions, which are going to happen right now. And once you get rid of the sanctions at the UN, as the plan is also through a new Security Council resolution, it's going to be awfully hard to ever get Russia and China to agree to reinstitute those sanctions. So to me, this is a worst-case scenario.
Well, I don't think we know. I think that's the important thing. That's why I wish the President and Secretary Kerry would get out of sales mode. Truthfully, I'd be a lot more confident, instead of trumpeting what a great deal this is, be honest. We may have made some very big progress. I want to be clear. I hope they're right. If they're right, then this is hugely positive. But if they're wrong, it's hugely dangerous. So I think, I get it, the administration has to sell the deal. I think in terms of the sanctions, what you said, Steve, is very important. This does, it seems to say, would lift as soon as Iran complies. So that itself will take some time. And it's also important to note, it only lifts the U.S. and EU sanctions. It does leave in place the UN. Now, they could lift them immediately, but they may not. And I suspect they may not, because there's going to be a lot of arguments that people in this country forget from other Muslim countries, from Sunni countries, that are even more passionately opposed to this deal than people in the U.S. may be, and certainly the state of Israel is by and large.
Saudi Arabia, Egypt, they're all going to be ticked
King
off.
Salman of Saudi Arabia, they tweeted from his, from the palace today, Iran is not to be trusted. I'm not saying I agree with him, but lifting sanctions at the UN will be a more lengthy process, I hope.
You see, you don't have to be wrong for me to be right. Why'd you have to throw that in? You're not sure if you agree that they shouldn't be trusted. By the way, Adam, do those tweets from the Saudi palace come with, like, diamonds around them?
They might. I tell you, Steve, this makes no sense to me. They just wanted to get a deal done so badly so they could say they accomplished a deal with Iran. I think this is a potential disaster. I'll tell you why. First of all, we're putting trust in a country and a nation whose leaders we cannot trust, and in the past when we have, we've been burned. We were under the impression that when we were doing inspections of their facilities, we were inspecting their facilities, when meanwhile we discovered that there were hidden facilities we never even knew about, which could be the same situation now. To make it worse, the only leverage we had on them were these sanctions, if they had any effect on them at all, but at least there were sanctions in place.
Right.
Now, without them even proving themselves or showing that they're going to do these things that are part of the deal, sanctions are going to be lifted.
Right. No, by the way, Adam, when you said we can't, when you said we can't trust Iran, I stuck my tongue out at Brad because I agree with you. Brad, how can you say
Which I didn't see. No, I want to be very clear. It's not that I think we should trust Iran. I want to quote Ronald Reagan here.
But you said you don't agree with the Saudi king or prince that we can't trust them. They're at the very moment we're signing a deal with them, they're killing Americans. They're the biggest financiers and supporters of terror around the world. They're taking over Arab capitals. How can you trust them?
So here's what I want to do. I want to finish what I was saying.
Wait, Adam, wait a minute. Adam, wait.
I just want to.
America only allies in the
Adam, wait a minute. Adam, wait a minute.
I love it, Adam. Largely, you and I agree. I want to play Ronald Reagan here. Trust but verify. That's my concern with this deal. And Adam actually mentioned it. I don't care about trust, not trust, because the truth is that's a word game. What I'm concerned about is, can we put in place the necessary verification processes that would actually lead to us trusting the deal? And I don't know.
All right, well, coming back, folks. We're coming back. We got a lot more to cover on the Malzberg panel. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what you're watching is a black youth in St. Louis on the subway system, whatever they call it there. Apparently, this youth asked a man named David Autry, a white man, what he thought about the Michael Brown case. And he said, I have no opinion, I don't want to talk about it. So he started punching him and beating him. And the guy was crying for help, and nobody helped him. And they've now arrested 2 people in this, but they're not charged with a hate crime. Rejoining us on the Malzberg panel, Adam Thompson and Brad Hirschfield. And Brad, you know, I was watching CNN do this. Don Lemon, he had a panel, and one of the panelists was Mark Lamont Hill. You know, in my view, in my opinion, a professional cop hater. And, you know, I know what he would have been saying. And I know what the reaction in the media today would have been if this was reversed. If this was a black kid on a subway in St. Louis being beaten by 2 or 3 white kids. But he didn't seem to think there was much of a racial aspect to this. And neither do the authorities, apparently.
So I think off air, Steve, you even said to me the line he used was, why bring race
Something
into this?
to that effect.
And the truth is, I agree with him. We shouldn't bring race into it. But if we're not going to bring race into it for this, we dare not bring race into it when it works the other way. So I also agree with you. Because if this had been 2 and maybe 3 white guys viciously beating on some black guy, because when I see that film, I don't see black or white. I see a horrible crime. I see a horrible crime that's got to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
But which means, unfortunately, in our society, Adam, because the law does see hate crimes and thought and motivation behind an attack, this has to be a hate crime.
There's no other reason why they attacked him but for what the precursor was, and the question before the attack was commentary about what a white man thought about the outcome in the Michael Brown case. So with that being said, it doesn't take a lot of logic to figure out that there's probably a racial element behind the attack. But again, as you said, Steve, when it's the reverse, it doesn't seem to hold the same weight or carry the same importance, and that has to change. Brad's right. It's either not about race or it is about race. You can't pick and choose when you're going to invoke it, because if the shoe was on the other foot, we've already have Al Sharpton down there protesting in the streets and more riots taking place probably.
And you would have had Barack Obama, you know, making reference to it in one way or another. I don't know how old David Autry, the man who got beat, is, but if he was young enough, I'm sure, you know, if it was reversed, he would have looked like a son that Barack Obama might have had, which is pretty sickening. All right, let's move on real quick here. Al-Shabaab go into a school in Kenya, and they slaughter Christians. They separate the Muslims from the Christians, Brad, and they slaughter the Christians. They're holding hostages. I mean, I'm getting sick of saying already, I haven't heard, you know, the president was able to come out on this Iran deal. He should have also said, by the way, it's condemning the strongest terms what happened to these Christians, blah, blah, blah. Not a word.
This is genocidal hate. I don't use those words lightly. This is genocidal hate and mass murder, driven by faith against people of another faith. We've seen this before in the world. We've seen this happen. Right? I'm a Jew, I'm a rabbi. We've seen this enough. We have to stop this. This is everybody's problem, but it's everybody's problem in the context of religion-based and religion-driven hatred. They went room to room, according to victims, pounded on doors, and said to students, recite lines from the Quran.
Right, if they couldn't,
if they could, they were spared. If they couldn't, they were shot where they stood.
Adam?
Brad and you both nailed it. This is a travesty, and it's just horrific that this is going on. Leadership has to take a leadership role. When Obama's striking this deal with Iran and the world is listening to every word he's saying on a quote, historic occasion, this was the right opportunity to ask Islamic leaders to step up, condemn this, speak against it, and talk about a change in philosophy, and it wasn't done. It wasn't even mentioned.
Adam, great talking to you. Great talking to Brad, and I wish both of you a happy Passover, which starts tomorrow night, and we're coming back with Gimme 5.